out in favour of amalgamation. Both clubs have denied there have been hush-hush talks, but Dundee owner Peter Marr has been quoted as saying it could be the way ahead.
Hot off the presses of the Evening Telegraph this afternoon came the surprise news that Dundee and Dundee United fans were in favour of a merger between their two football clubs. It's been a hardy annual that in the past has always met with opposition. Now, with both clubs struggling in the relegation zone, it seems some fans are having a change of heart. The phone poll in the Telegraph showed that nearly 58% of callers backed the idea.
I must admit it's taken me aback somewhat, simply because I tend to feel that from past experience when amalgamation's been talked about, a majority has been against. So when you hear that there is quite a reasonable majority for, and what is a sizable poll, it takes me aback that the fans have changed in the space of maybe 5 or 6 years, but I can understand that they want success.
The biggest argument for a merger is the economic one. The local derby and games against the old firm offer the only hope of full houses. 2 weeks ago, less than 4,000 watched Dundee beat Motherwell. Some say a merger presents the only chance of challenging Rangers and Celtic. Others disagree.
Well, it's very difficult to challenge Rangers and Celtic, but we've got to be looking to be the third best team in Scotland. We've got to be challenging teams like Kilmarnock, Aberdeen and Hearts. And if this is the way to go, and I'm not saying it's the right way, if this is the way to go, this may be one avenue that you could look at.
I don't feel that any team, whether merged or otherwise, in Scotland is capable of competing with Rangers or Celtic now. I feel that our ambitions are to remain in the Premier League, as are United's, and I feel that realistically a merger would not significantly improve their chances either way.
Dundee have described merger talk as pure speculation, but Dundee owner Peter Marr, who faces a costly upgrading of Dens Park, is quoted as saying he thinks it's the only way ahead. So in the future, will there be 1 or 2 football clubs in Tannadice Street? Well, like the famous TV soap, there'll be a few twists and turns in this street story before we find out.
Poll in Dundee suggests that a tie-up between the two could find favour with the fans.
It's dropped now for Grady! Oh! What?
Both of the Dundee clubs want and need better support and, for that matter, better results. Dundee, sitting 8th in the league, attract around 3,000 supporters for each home game. Down the street, United may get 5,000 or so, but even then they're lying second bottom. Merger may now seem attractive.
I feel sorry for supporters, like, you know, the Dundee supporters, United supporters, true supporters, but they're going to have to merge to get someone done, yeah, definitely.
There's not really much room for 2 teams in Dundee. 1 would be better.
That's been bolstered by a survey in the local evening paper. In less than 4 days, more than 2,500 calls were made, and sports staff say they were astonished at the result, 58% in favour of a merger. There are die-hard fans, however, for whom the prospect is unthinkable.
I totally disagree with it in principle and in practice. I don't think it will work. I don't think they'll take the majority of the hardcore fans with them on both sides.
The majority of people have been laughing at this over the past 10 days. Most of the United fans I've spoken to have thought that this was a joke being run by the local paper.
At Dens Park, they say the two clubs are now talking regularly, ending almost 20 years of non-cooperation, but not too much should be read into that. Here at Tannadice, they say talks of a merger are pure speculation, although interestingly enough, they won't categorically deny that they've taken place. For two clubs in the same street that used to be miles apart, the gap seems to be narrowing. Alan Grant, reporting Scotland, Dundee.
Of over 150,000, it currently boasts 2 clubs playing in the Scottish Premier League. Dundee and Dundee United are at present in the bottom half of the table. Domestic success in the top flight for both teams is fast becoming a distant memory. Dundee last won the league back in 1962, with their most recent success in the League Cup back in 1973. United's highlights: a league title win in 1983 and a Scottish Cup success in 1994. The financial pressures of building a stadium and putting a quality team out in the park to challenge the old firm is proving too difficult a task for both camps, which is why the question of a possible merger of the two teams was once again raised by the local paper, the Dundee Evening Telegraph. The result of the poll showed an amazing figure of 57.7% in favour of a merger. Just over 2,600 calls were taken, and the findings were backed by Dundee chairman Peter Marr, who is quoted as saying a merger is the way ahead.
To anyone outside the boundaries of Dundee, the logic seems fine. Within the city, passion and opinion suggests otherwise.
Honestly, that's just the Dundee public. That's nothing to do with the football supporters. That's just the Dundee public. There's too many diehards. They're wanting Dundee to stay with United, United to stay with Dundee, so it's never going to happen.
I think it would be a bad thing in the town to merge. The only good thing that's maybe come out of it is a possibility of ground sharing, which would cut costs for both clubs.
Bob Angus broke the news of the poll in the local paper, and he stands by the result of one club for the city.
No one's claiming that a Dundee City or whatever would be up there challenging the Old Firm. What the hope is amongst the pro-merger lobby is that a new one city club would be up in the top half.
I don't particularly like the idea. I like the independence of both city clubs, but I think we're talking financial common sense this time, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if this went through.
Jim McInally knows what it's like to play for both Dundee clubs. His career has taken him from the Tangerine to the Blues at Dens Park, and the veteran midfielder is adamant that amalgamation should never happen.
If I was putting my hand in my heart and saying I was a Dundee fanatic, I would never go for amalgamation, because if that's your club, you never want to lose your club to anybody.
The possibility of Dundee and Dundee United becoming one is still a realistic prospect. However, no progress or contact has been made with the Scottish Premier League. A spokesperson for the SPL said neither club has approached the Scottish Premier League with regard to a possible merger. The SPL is unable to comment on the implications for the clubs and their status in the league until such an approach is made.
Will you have the Dundee City scarf on?
Most certainly, of course. I always support my local teams.
Yeah, well, if anyone knows what they're talking about up there in Dundee, it's Dick Donnelly. And Alan, he said there, financial common sense, and he also said he wouldn't be surprised if it went ahead.
I think the talks have taken place. I think they're down the road. The biggest thing, Jim, is the losing the identity of the club that's been there for so long, Dundee being the oldest of the two clubs. And it's a real tough one. Now, this has been going on quite a long time. Remember there was a chap tried to take over Cook.
Angus Cook.
And a more hostile way saying, I'll buy Dundee United and that's it going to be done. And nobody wanted that. I think Dick is right. Financially, this is 1999. The two clubs cannot possibly fill their stadiums every week. And if they're going to... But that's like to merge the two teams. But a single stadium might help them in a financial way.
And yet the SPL say you're not allowed to ground share. So it would appear that cannot happen, but maybe the way ahead is the merger, despite what the supporters are saying. They're all speaking from the heart, but maybe the way ahead is a merger.
Well, unfortunately, sometimes when you talk from the heart and you keep after paying bills and there's money not there to be paid, that just can't go on. It just cannot go on, and you cannot run a business at a loss. And right now, if any of the two of them are doing that, the banks will pull the plug, and that can't go on. And I think, if anything, the SPL should scrap this and at least let them try a merger of the stadium.
Well, interestingly, Dundee United are saying tonight they're not denying any merger talks. They're saying the club's position remains that the present talk of amalgamation is pure speculation. They also say they wish to reassure the support that Dundee United remain totally committed to their long-term plans to secure major investment at Tannadice. We shall see.